Happy Monday, everybody. Episode 84 of the Plug Talk Sports live show. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been up since 5:30 a.m. today. Played soccer tonight. I am dead right now, but it's a Monday night. Plug Talk Sports. Can't miss it. It's the place to be on a Monday night, talking all things sports, South Florida sports in general. We got Jonka Don't Stop. And we got Brandon in the house tonight. And I'm telling you, we're 1 week away from the return. And I'm saying it, first time back. He's currently in Miami. We are 1 week away from the return of our producer of everything Plug Talk Sports, Isaac Gomez. I'm sure you guys, it's been a while, but I'm sure you guys remember Isaac. He'll be right back on the show next Monday night, episode 85. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be really good. And he came back today. He gave us our plug of the week. He gave us the plug of the week. So it was great to have Isaac back. It's going to be great to have his return to the show next week. We're not going to have a plug of the week or shameless plug on the show just because there's so much to get to, so much content that we want to talk about. And so we're going to, no further ado, we're going to get right into it. And we're going to talk about a developing story in the NBA, and that is Ja Morant. And as Brandon stated off camera right before the show started, just the entire Memphis Grizzlies situation. If you guys don't know, Ja Morant earlier last week, first of all, was hit with the news, hit social media, and obviously the news airwaves, that he punched a 17-year-old kid in the face. And then we go later on to the week, and after a game in Denver, he was seen on Instagram Live waving a gun on the Instagram Live, which we learned just today, this afternoon, that Colorado, the state, is looking into this and investigating to see if it, broke any of their gun laws in their state. Obviously, he was carrying a firearm in a club, and if it's said to say that if he was carrying that firearm in the club, he must have had that firearm with him in the locker room, on the team plane, which is a suspension in the NBA up to 50-plus games. And now the critical part to all of this is that before all of that happened that night, there was a meeting between the Grizzlies players led by Steven Adams saying that they need to stop going out on the road. And Ja Morant just wiped his you-know-what with that whole entire conversation and proceeded to go to the club. And then this is when this all occurred. This is where the Memphis Grizzlies are at right now. Me personally, there has to be some sort of severe punishment for this. You can't let this just slide. I know he's one of the most exciting young rising players in the league. But if the league really wants to get strong about this, they got to make an example of him. Because, if they'd let this slide, they'd be like, if the league's making money off of me and I'm a rising star, it means I can do whatever I want and get away with it. And I think that the NBA needs to make an example of this and give him a harsh punishment for what he committed.
No, yeah. I mean, and not even that. I mean, as you mentioned before, from what it is right now, the in-state and as well as the NBA, so the state of Colorado as well as the NBA are now investigating exactly if Ja Morant brought that firearm, that weapon onto the plane, if he brought it to, either from Memphis onto the plane or he got it in Colorado. We don't really know exactly where he was showing it at, let alone what the gun laws are in that area. So Ja Morant himself, I mean, he did apologize, made an official statement saying that he's going to be working through himself and kind of going through a better phase. I don't want to say rehab per se, but more or less just kind of mentally going back and forth with himself. But the one thing I think that was really eye-opening, and I mean, Daniel, as you said before, was Steven Adams leading that players only meeting, Adams really did talk about, emphasize the idea of, the players, they can't be going out on these road games.
Yeah.
Because again, not only do you get yourself in trouble, but you also, maybe that might be, again, we don't really know for sure. Still, of course, still investigation, but maybe John Morant, did a lot of that during the road games. You don't know exactly because, again, I mean, if it wasn't for him being on IG Live or whatever, we might have never known exactly where he was at the time. Maybe he's been doing that same type of action in other cities. I mean, and also it's affected the team itself. Right now, they have a 12-20 road record. I mean, and again, this is a team that is top 3 in the Western Conference, a home record of 26-5, which is probably one of the best teams, if not the best team at home in the West. Their road record is horrible for a team at their standard, and the reason why might just be exactly of John Morant's antics on the road, and who knows exactly if that bleeds into more or less the team. Because again, I hate to say anything, but the city of Memphis, they really just go around this one player and they really welcome him in. But at the same time, the city of Memphis, it does have a little bit of a reputation. So John Morant himself, he needs to be careful when he's on the road. Of course, his image itself also is go out there for a lot of people who do watch his game. And of course, those who are growing up, the next generation, seeing him on and off the court. But the Memphis Grizzlies themselves, I mean, this is probably the worst timing that they could possibly have. I mean, Dylan Brooks got suspended for 2 games. Brandon Clark ruptured his Achilles, and he's done for the entire season. So when you saw, like, for example, the Clippers game the other night, no John Morant, Brooks wasn't there, Clark's not there. It's Jaren Jackson Jr. and who else, right? So this Memphis Grizzlies team, they found themselves in a terrific spot midway through the year, but it's all crumbling down real quick.
Before you go, I just remember this. I want to mention, I think there was an incident in Boston earlier in the year where they said, I forgot which Celtics players. There was somebody related to the Boston Celtics organization was leaving the arena, and they had like the laser pointer of a rifle pointed at their car, and it seemed to have been coming from a group of John Morant's friends. This situation happened earlier in the season.
Well, if it did happen, and probably did. I mean, again, that's just furthers the point of exactly what is he doing on the road throughout this entire time. Because all we have right now is what he did in Denver from his personal Instagram and social media accounts. But the NBA is investigating everything right now. I'd be really shocked if they don't further their investigation throughout earlier this year.
Jonka?
I'm a bit disappointed in Ja. I mean, he was chosen behind Zion. I'm a Zion guy, but I love Ja too. It just goes to show that once you're given money and you're given status, especially now, and obviously we're not in the old days, but with the social media and having to show off, this kid isn't mature. He hasn't matured, and I think he's. And then I guess I don't know where is he from. I don't really know if he's from the hood or from the gang. I don't know what, because apparently he was throwing up the Crip sign or something. I don't know. I saw it on Undisputed this morning, but it's not a good sign. I think he has a partnership with Nike. Now with all this going on, he might lose it. With the gun thing, that Daniel said, he might be out like 50 plus games. We don't know what happens with the assault with the kid. It's not looking good, especially that this Grizzlies team last season, they could have gone all the way. They just happened to come up against the champions, the Warriors. They fell short, but they were getting better as the time went on, especially with Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bain, Jerry Jackson. Like they got a legit squad. But now this is just throwing fire into a furnace. But the furnace is overheating, and it might explode. Anything can happen at this point. I don't know. It's not a good look for Ja.
I don't understand what goes through your head as a human being, knowing that the platform that you have, knowing the world and society that we live in today with cancel culture, and how more overly sensitive and cautious you have to be with things that you say, things that you do, and with things that you post. And when you represent, and this goes not only for athletes, this goes for everybody. When you work for somewhere, you're no longer representing yourself, you're representing an organization as well. So you have to conduct yourself as such, away, like during your work hours and away from your work hours, because you never know who's watching, and it's all about perception with people. They may not know you. You may be a great, fantastic person, but the moment they see you slipping up or outside somewhere, you may be at dinner or something, and something goes down, and someone sees you, they're gonna immediately get that perception of you.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in John Morant that you have this platform as a professional athlete, as an NBA player, to lead this next generation of not only players, but the next generation of the youth. They're growing up watching the NBA, and you're conducting yourself in such matters.
Yeah. So, what I also find difficult, I was going back to the thing when got drafted behind Zion, is like, listen, Zion right now, he's injured, but when he does play well. But the thing is, he's not reliable because of his injuries and how I guess he's overweight and he's not taking care of himself. For Jaw, it's like, hey, listen, you're playing, you're not injured. People say, oh yeah, you should have gone second, you should have been first, you should have been rookie of the year. It's like, if you don't like what they're saying, prove them wrong. Don't show them that, like, oh, okay, even though Zion is kind of injury prone, he doesn't act like this, and
Yeah.
it's kind of really it's really bad. If you wanted to try to beat the Warriors again in the playoffs, now you're just basically like, you ruined it. You ruined your chances. You're not gonna beat the Warriors right now. It's not looking like you're gonna beat the Lakers either. So good luck with what they're gonna try to do. But right now their season's over, with like a couple games left in the season.
Listen, I know Brandon's a Boston guy, and I appreciate that. I respect that. But there is a Boston legend who had to comment on this situation, and he goes by the name of Paul Pierce, who's defending John Morant on this situation. Like, listen, if you're defending John Morant in this situation, I'm sorry, but you there's no other way to put it, but you have no brain cells. And if you only have Paul Pierce on your side, we're talking about the guy. Listen, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. No one's, should be entitled to point fingers at each other. But we're talking about the guy who got fired from ESPN for posting strippers in his face.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the best example either. I mean, if I'm John Moran, like, if I have someone great on my side defending me, okay, look, like I have a model example of someone great. But if you got Paul Pierce on your side defending you, I wouldn't be so proud of that.
Yeah, that's not. Go ahead, Brandon. Do you have anything?
Honestly, the only thing I would probably say is that, hopefully John Morant does get on the better side of this. Hopefully that the Memphis Grizzlies, they do sort things out with their superstar, their young franchise keystone player. And of course, again, the NBA is still in investigation. The state of Colorado is still in investigation. But I definitely, as I mentioned before, I definitely would not be surprised if they do find something deeper into this one from things earlier in the season. And who knows exactly how deep that will probably take Jaw away from the game. So unfortunately, not a good thing for the NBA. Definitely not a good thing for the franchise in Memphis. And hopefully John Morant gets things turned around. But of course, we're always going to be wishing that a player does end up getting back on his feet. So
we shall see. We shall see what happens. All this is just developing. I think it started in the past week, but more information coming out today. So it's still developing. It's still fresh, and we're just gonna see what action the state of Colorado takes and what action the NBA takes. Sticking on basketball, the Miami Hurricanes. Listen, people are now declaring them a basketball school. People are declaring them a basketball school now. They are co-champions of the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. They defeated Pittsburgh. Jonka, why don't you give us some insight on the Miami Hurricanes, just their season in general, where they're headed, and being champions of the ACC?
Listen, as the guy, first of all, co-champs my Pahootie, because we beat Virginia and we beat Pittsburgh. Those are the two people behind us. So if we have a better record than both of them, we have the tiebreaker. So I don't understand where this anything is coming out from. So you're telling me in the NBA, if I'm first and whoever's second, is it tie for whoever takes the conference? Like, it doesn't make sense. No, whoever has the better record and whoever has the tiebreaker, if there is a tiebreaker. We beat Virginia early in the season. We beat Pittsburgh at the end of the season. So what more do you want? And what pisses me off even more is that in the new rankings that came out today, they still have Virginia ahead of us, which makes no sense. Okay, so besides that, I saw the highlights of the game because I was with Dan. We saw the Inter Miami game, but they played very well. Pittsburgh played a really good defensive game. They were hitting crazy threes. Like, it was ridiculous how many threes they were making. But I think what gave us the win was our how would I say, our experience with Isaiah Wong, what's his name, Popular and Nigel Pack. I think they all did really well. They held the ground. Jordan Miller did his thing. It was incredible. They won. Everybody could storm the court. I've always wished, after like a decade of us winning, I think it was in 2012 or 2013 or something, that we finally win the ACC again.
Wait, I want to clarify. Was this the postseason or was it just the regular season?
This is just the regular season. The ACC tournament begins.
Then I can give a rat's what about winning the regular season.
It doesn't make sense to me because I saw in the ACC tournament rankings, if it's cold like they say it is, then why is Miami 1 and Virginia 2?
Right.
They want to bash what we are, bro. I'm telling you, it's what it is.
Yeah, but let me tell you,
last.
Because again, like co-champions, right? We all know the Hurricanes are up top right now in their basketball in the ACC, and especially now in the ACC without Coach K at Duke and Coach Williams over there at UNC. But this Hurricanes team is just on fire, though. Isaiah Wong, all SEC first team, right? At ACC Player of the Year, and actually it's not even just him that gets the accolades. Second team All ACC, Jordan Miller. Third team All ACC, Nortrell Amir. I might have butchered that last time. I do apologize if he's listening to this. But either way, this Miami Hurricanes team has been phenomenal throughout the entire season against the ACC. Now, again, they still got to kind of clinch their spot and really get that conference championship.
Yeah.
But this is a team that obviously a lot of people have a lot of high regards for. And again, Virginia, they won that championship not too long ago, but things are switching a little bit right now. The Hurricanes, and for me personally, and for everyone I think on this panel that lived in South Florida their entire lives, this has slowly become a South Florida basketball community, right? From LeBron James and the Miami Heat, all that stuff. And of course, what we've seen from the talent that's come from South Florida now being on the professional level, we're seeing that now in our university, especially with the Hurricanes, where now you see a team that can actually rebuild itself because these are guys that are homegrown here or just in general see South Florida and said, yeah, that's a basketball area. That's a basketball community. I mean, Isaiah Wong's from New Jersey, but still, he knows ball, I'm pretty sure. Like anybody else that knows ball, Miami's the place to be. So the Hurricanes themselves, phenomenal season, 15 ACC victories, the most they've had in program history, 16 victories at home, most in program history as well. This is the best team, I have to say, the best team we've seen at the Watsco Center in a very long time, maybe even the best.
You see, that's what I was going to say. For me, if you win a regular season, they just call you co-champions. You win the regular season. They're storming the court and everything. For me, I only care if you win the ACC tournament. For me, that's when you win the conference and you make it to March Madness. I don't care. For me, that's like saying, congratulations for participating in the regular season. Here's your medal. Like, that doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not taking anything. They are a great team. They've been playing great basketball. I'm just saying I just don't like that about, you won the regular season.
Yeah, but I mean, the title itself, again, it's not the goal, of course, for any team.
Of course.
But, you got to give credit when it's due. You got to at least give, some sort of accolade for this year. Whether, of course, and again, I have them. I think everyone has them as a favorite right now going to the ACC tournament. If they don't win it this year, I'll be pretty shocked. But then again, this is March. So anything can really happen in college basketball. Yeah.
What I find, even let's say they don't win the ACC, they could still make it to March Madness, and they're still a good team.
Oh,
and we know March Madness, it's madness. Anything can happen
in March.
Exactly.
Like last year with Jim Larinaga, we made it for our first ever Elite Eight, and so it's like, and I feel like this year we have a better team than last year, even though.
Wait. Are you about to make a bold prediction here?
No. But we do have flaws on this team. Late game, we do make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, turnovers. We could be up 10 with a minute left, and somehow, some way, the other team comes back and almost ties it, or they tie it. Our late game strategies have to be fixed. That's something that needs to be addressed before March Madness starts.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, not even that. One big example is that Florida State game. That was not too long ago.
Yeah.
That one was, I mean, the Hurricanes were up by double digits in that one, and they just kind of, slow down their pace, drop a little bit in coverage defensively. If this Hurricane team, and again, this is a very talented Hurricane team, but how talented are they to really back off defensively against the top teams in the nation? They're not that talented. So for the Hurricanes themselves, they got the squad for. They just got to finish.
We're going to stay with basketball. And this news, when I saw it, I think the news broke when I was with John. Unbelievable, man. I'm giving up. I told you, the ship for me has sailed.
I gave up before the season started.
Goran Dragic, who was waived by the Chicago Bulls, gets signed by the Milwaukee Bucks, who are currently first place in the Eastern Conference. Listen to me. Goran Dragic himself said, I was open to going back to the Miami Heat. He said that himself. But Miami has really committed to Kyle Lowry. They've really committed to him, and he screwed them over. Because for so long, and through this injury, Lowry, especially through All-Star break, Lowry said, I'm going to be ready by this certain date. That certain date showed up, and he said, nah, I'm not that ready yet. He duped the Miami Heat. We're stuck with him. Me personally, I would have canned him. And look, I respect him for what he did in Toronto and winning a championship, but he's just not that player anymore. I think he's past his prime. He doesn't fit in the Miami Heat culture. I think we've seen that by his physical attributes. And I would have canned him at the trade deadline to get another piece. I would have brought back Goran Dragic. I think Goran Dragic's veteran leadership and his energy matches a lot more for the Miami Heat than Kyle Lowry does. And I'm just disappointed. I mean, here goes another great player that goes to yet another contender in the East that's going to make them better. And the Miami Heat continue to be this mediocre team this year. And the comments by Jimmy Butler says we're getting bored with the process, which Spoelstra then said, I'm okay that he said that. if this continues to get worse, I'm starting myself to get scared that we might lose Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler is the type of guy that wants to win. He's hungry and he likes to win. We saw that in Minnesota. We saw that in Chicago. We saw that in Philadelphia. And I'm scared that what's going on right now might drive him to that point. But for me, this is another move that makes me roll my eyes, makes me get so upset with the Miami Heat. And I just have nothing else to say. The ship has sailed for me this season at the deadline for the Miami Heat.
Right. But I just want to double check. We're talking about Goran Dragic, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about Dragic, who the last time was relevant was during the NBA bubble, where he unfortunately got that lower body injury, couldn't play in the finals, was a huge part of the Heat's playoff bubble push. We're talking about that Goran Dragic, who since then has not been relatable in any type of NBA game at all. In their past 5 games, I'll let you know the stat-wise right now. He was at least averaging 15 minutes a game. He only got, actually, funny enough, averages 6.4 points a game. He hasn't scored any bit more than 5 points in like the past month or two. This isn't Goran Dragic. I wouldn't even say Goran Dragic is even better than Highsmith at this point in his career. For the Milwaukee Bucks themselves, obviously they're just adding more to the fire, but it's more or less adding more to the fire like the way they added Serge Ibaka on their roster, right? This is a player that comes from, a team that pushes the pace down the floor, able to make the playoffs, and of course, Dragic, not like Serge Ibaka, champion. However, Dragic with that pedigree that knows how to get to the finals. But I just don't see Dragic getting on the floor at all. He barely got on the floor for a Chicago Bulls team that was 10th and 11th in the NBA. He barely even got himself available to even be able to even make a roster spot, even with Lonzo Ball being out for the rest of the season, especially with Patrick Beverley now on that team. I can't even imagine Dragic even getting on a roster on the floor in Chicago. So for a fact that he's over there in Milwaukee, I don't really see it pushing any bit to the Bucks championship needle in Las Vegas, honestly, right now, if you're a bettor out there. For the Miami Heat themselves, again, I mean, everyone knows Dragic as the guy for the Heat who pushed them to another level. Everyone knows Dragic as a competitor, a facilitator, and a guy that would just get a bucket whenever was needed. He's just not that guy anymore. This is a move that, again, the Heat could have jumped on it, but how much could you really do in this situation where Miami's at right now? They just picked up Cody Zeller as well as Kevin Love. And Kevin Love recently, I think the Heat are like 2-5, 2-6 right now with Kevin Love since he joined the roster. And Kevin Love is barely even shooting above 30% overall from the field, let alone above 25% or so, maybe even less than that from three-point range. So I think Goran Dragic himself, I think, again, Heat lifer, guy is always going to be remembered over there in South Beach, but definitely not the guy that Miami needed in South Beach right now.
Jonka, before you go, I know Jonka's going to agree with me. I feel it. I feel like he's going to agree with me. I good and hell well feel like Jonka would say and agree with me. He'd rather have Goran Dragic's minutes over Kyle Lowry's minutes. I know my guy. I know him.
At this point, I just have to question myself. And also question, if I were the Miami Heat, who would be more reliable? Goran or Kyle Lowry? The guy that's been injured basically almost the entire year, always complaining, and when he does get on the court, he stinks it up. Or somebody that has chemistry with the team before, went to the finals in the bubble with them, even though his numbers have fallen. Maybe it's because he didn't have a starting role with the team when he got traded or when he signed with them, whatever the case was. Maybe that's why the numbers have fallen. 15 minutes. I think on Miami, when he was playing for Miami, he had more minutes than 15. So I'm not gonna say he's dropped off yet. I just think he was maybe where he went wasn't the best situation for him. I think the Heat flopped. They missed out. They haven't had any consistency this whole year. Maybe Dragic, with his veteran leadership, could have helped Strus and Vincent, to say, hey, do this, do that. Maybe like as a teaching sort of way, as something that can help this team, wake the F up. Okay, they're sleeping. They're not sleepers. They're sleeping. So that's what I'm gonna say. I think we should have gone for him. And if it didn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, it's not like we're winning anyways. I haven't seen like one single game this entire season, so it doesn't affect me at all. But if I were the Heat, I would have gone for him. So that's just me. I would have gone for him.
I have to agree with Jonka. I mean, I get your points, Brandon. I do. But I'd rather have a guy that's going to be out there on the floor, at least trying to provide something, than a guy that's sidelined and not doing anything and just giving him money.
I mean, for what it's worth, what I would say, again, as I mentioned before, we remember Dragic as this big guy. And I don't know. I mean, I'm looking right now at the stats right now for tonight's game for the Heat. They have no Kyle Lowry, obviously. And it looks like for the rest of this year, they really don't need him. But I can't even imagine them making a roster move, anything like that. I mean, they just brought back some G League guy back up. And, I mean, is that enough to really push the needle for the Heat? Is Dragic really enough to push the needle for the Heat? I don't think there's a single move that you do, and especially with the guys that are available right now, either with Dragic, without Dragic. I think Dragic makes no sense to even make the move financially, really, for Miami that's tight right now on money. But definitely it's more of a locker room issue than it is adding another guy, and that problem could fix something for two guys on the roster, I mean, I just think this Miami Heat situation they have right now is internal. And again, this could just be a stretch of games where they're just losing, and then out of nowhere they start winning near April.
True.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to your opinion. And I don't think if they were to go after Dragic, I think that it wouldn't have been in their mindset of like, we're trying to get a guy. Like, this is the piece. This is the piece that's going to send us over the edge to, making us a championship contender. I think they just would have gotten him as a piece of like, one, loyalty and respect, mutual respect, and the fans love him. And second, of like, he's better than what we got right now. He's better than what we got right now.
This is one that's you said something that struck a ding, a light bulb in my head. This is something that he have to stop doing. Imagine they would have gone Dragic, right? There goes the marketing team, the entire effing city. Oh, hey, this is the guy. I mean, he posting like, this is the guy. We got our guy. Oh, Dragic is back. Oh, is the team back together? Guys, the team ain't winning anything. Period. Everybody watching, save your time. If you're at work harder. Get some more hours in. Do not spend your time watching the Miami Heat. I sincerely tell you this. Do not waste your time.
Look, it's just I don't even know how to explain it. It's just I feel like the team only wins when Jimmy Butler goes out there and drops 30 plus points out of himself because he wants to win, because that's the type of player he is. He's that competitor. But the guy can't do that every night. Like, he's going to need help. His body, like, he's at the point right now when we saw him in the bubble in the finals where he was just hanging out like that because he was exhausted. Like, it's getting to that point where he just needs to drop 30 plus a night if this team wants to put a W against a random team in the NBA. That's just the point where the Miami Heat are at right now.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, again, like Bam Adebayo, given the credit when it's due, obviously an all-star this year, and then pushing the needle a little bit further, doing his best part on it. But I just think it's really the depth of this basketball team that we're seeing in Miami. I mean, is Victor Oladipo really going to step up for you guys? Tyler Hero started off the year as a starter when he was fighting for it, and then now his numbers have kind of regressed, and he's finding himself on the bench again. So this Miami Heat team, they need a better position down low with Bam Adebayo. They try to get that with Kevin Love. Who knows if that really does fix itself later on? Time will only tell. For Jimmy Butler himself, I mean, JB, of course, is always going to put every single effort out there, but he's not an all-star that a lot of people expect him to be. I mean, people need to realize what he did in the 2020 bubble, and then as well what he did in last season's playoffs in the Eastern Conference. That's a rarity. That's not something you expect every single night you go down to Miami-Dade Arena. All right? This guy, I mean, from the numbers I'm looking at right now, let me double-check from the game he's having. Let me just double-check here against Atlanta. And yes, the Atlanta Hawks, who are right behind the Heat, in the Eastern Conference, Atlanta at 8th, I believe. Jimmy Butler right now, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. Falling right behind him is Bam Adebayo. Victor Oladipo and Caleb Martin both also have double digits in this game as well with Duncan Robinson. But the way that this season has gone through, you don't really see Martin out there giving you buckets. You don't really see Robinson out there giving you buckets unless it's like a hot week, right? Yep. Tyler Hero in this one has played nearly 30 minutes so far. And again, this is crunch time right now. 7 minutes, 8 minutes remaining in this fourth quarter in Miami as we speak. Tyler Hero with 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And he's played almost 30 minutes now. They need more production from their depth. I don't know if it's just a cold streak from the team, but Jimmy Butler himself, he's doing everything that he can. He's only averaging about 22 points a game. He's not giving the 30, 40 a night. He's only giving you 22 points a game. I don't even think that's the most efficient guy offensively for the Heat, as crazy as it sounds. So people that are expecting Jimmy Butler to just raise the roof, he's only one man. He's only one man. As Daniel said, he's getting exhausted every single night.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a depth issue. I think more or less it's more of, do you change the playbook if you're Eric Spoelstra? Do you find something later on in the roster? Because it's not going to come in free agency. It's not going to come right now in any bit of the guys that are available in trade deadlines or whatnot. This is a Miami Heat team that it's just internal. You either scrap a team, and I hate to say it because, again, I began the year saying that this team, they wanted this nucleus back together for this year to run it back. But you got to scrap it because the bench itself, it's not going to cut it offensively for this team. We talk about a great defensive team, Miami, but in today's NBA, they can't pick up the pace with these teams. I mean, they make the Knicks and Julius Randle look like a 130 points a game team whenever they play them.
It's sad, man. I think people were really, after the season they had last year, I think people were really expecting a lot more out of them this year, or to be at the same level, but it's been everything but that from this Miami Heat team. But switching gears, staying on the Miami Heat, this is an interesting question I saw that Jalen Rose posted up. What would have happened? What would you guys think would have happened if the Miami Heat Big Three would have stayed together?
If they actually did stay together, and again, this is like basically what, 2015, 2014. LeBron doesn't move anywhere. Chris Bosh probably still does get those.
They remain healthy. They remain healthy. Yeah,
remain healthy. Because the biggest thing, in my opinion, though, because the Eastern Conference really shifted gears when LeBron went to Cleveland. So if this is going to be happening where LeBron does not leave at all, the Miami Heat would still be good, and of course bring in more aging veterans with them. And who knows, down the line, maybe they do add in another piece. But like, for example, if Anthony Davis, right, with Anthony Davis going to Los Angeles because LeBron's there, that doesn't happen if Chris Bosh is there. So the Miami Heat will have to deal with a situation where they'll have to still go against the Golden State Warriors, which were a dominant franchise for so many years. And you can technically still say sometimes a little sliver of it. But Miami, they probably would get at least 2 more championships. At least 2 more championships. Because from the teams that you saw in Golden State, They were still dominant teams the way their ball movement was going around. And of course, the off-ball screens that open up plays for guys like Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, who I still think being in the West would still be able to push themselves through. And of course, Kevin Durant would still go on to Golden State. That big three team, as good as it was, the only thing I would probably say is that the aging team that was part of Miami in 2014 would totally transition to another group that I think I mean, who knows exactly what that is? Because it's not Norris Cole. It's not Shane Battier. If you say like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero on that squad, they at least win maximum two championships. Maybe they don't even get past the Warriors. Maybe they wait until the Warriors get away from the finals, like the Phoenix Suns in 2021. But that squad, aging as it was with D Wade, driving production, Chris Bosh, who knows? 2 or 1 championships, I think, at least.
I think, John, before you go, I give them a fight. I give them a fight in 2015 against the Warriors. But once KD in 2016 joined, that's where I think it would have been over for the Heat. That's my opinion. Jonka?
It's okay. Question: until when are the big three together? Till they retire, or is it a certain amount of years? Because you're talking about Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Like, we're in 2023. That's like 8 years ahead.
And not even that.
So it's like until when? It broke off in 2014. How long are they together for? Okay, Bosh got blood clots. Wade was still playing pretty well.
Wade's knees were shot, man.
He was still playing. He was still good offensively as I guess like a person coming off the bench or starting role, but not like I will control the game. I will control the ball. So I just want to know until when? Like, until when are they together?
I don't know, man. It's just
that's how I gotta find out, because if let's say they do stay, let's say LeBron signs.
Well, I don't know. Let's call LeBron on the phone and let's rewind it back in time and say, hey, let's get you guys back together. See what would have happened.
If let's say LeBron stays one more year because he doesn't want to go out like that, how he did to the Spurs, right? And they go on to play the Warriors that first year.
Okay, 2015.
Yeah. Man. I would have to see. It would all depend on who they got, who got rid of, who retired, who went where. But I would have to give it to the Heat just because LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, with their finals experience, I think will put them over the edge in 2015. But then 2016, I think.
I think 2016 just. I'm not saying we would have been annihilated, but I think
2016, 2017.
Yeah. The only way I can see that Miami 2016 and into 2017 and stuff like that would have had a chance if they would have been retooling around LeBron.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, who they get depends on. Maybe they get some big guy. Maybe they get Kyrie Irving from Cleveland or something like that as a point guard. And then they restrict everybody's contract. Something.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not just the big three that made that Heat team during those years. I mean, it was definitely the depth of the team, the bench, the role players, everything in between, you know. But again, as I mentioned before, if LeBron does not leave Miami, I highly doubt he would ever be in contact with Anthony Davis. So it would also be the question of who would the tools even be, because it wouldn't be a all-star, right? It'll probably be a player like, and again, it wouldn't be a Paul George because position-wise. It wouldn't be a Zach LaVine or anything like that, Devin Booker, you know, position-wise again with Dwayne Wade. Maybe later on when Dwayne Wade's a little bit aging, his knees are shot, and you can make a deal somehow. But definitely the Miami, as I mentioned before, the maximum 2 championships. I don't think they make a lot of noise going past the Golden State Warriors. And then when you also look at the Heat's draft, in those few years. Justice Winslow would be a part of those teams. Richardson might have been a part of those teams. And then, of course, Tyler Hero would have been probably a part of that team. And Bam, that's the interesting thing, though. Now, again, I don't know exactly how long Chris Bosh would play for if he was, of course, not with the health issues that he had to end his career. But a Chris Bosh, Bam Adebayo, and actually a funny thing about it, I saw an all-time Miami Heat starting.
Oh, yeah, with Alonzo Mourning?
Yeah, with Alonzo Mourning, Bam Adebayo, as well as Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. Now, that's high regard for Bam Adebayo, who is still trying to develop himself in this league. But again, if we're talking about if that big three stayed, and including Bam as well, again, with the draft picks, if they still, hold as they did, that would have been an all-time Miami Heat roster, better than what we've seen in those championship years before, in those teams with the big three. So definitely, I mean, who knows? You never know. But honestly, I just can't imagine them going through the West easily like that.
Hey, do you imagine? I mean, this is just playing a game of possibility. But do you imagine if LeBron stays in Miami? Obviously, like I say, they retool once the rest of the big three or whatever move on. That big three they had in Cleveland of K-Love and LeBron and Kyrie. I'm just saying, who knows? LeBron could have brought him down to Miami.
I don't know, man. I mean, because the biggest thing about it, actually, now that I really think about it, Kevin Love would have probably never left the Timberwolves if it wasn't for LeBron going to Cavs, because they used that Andrew Wiggins deal, sending that first pick over to Kevin Love, Minnesota Timberwolves, to send over Kevin Love to the Cavaliers. Think about it, though. Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins would have been a part of that. And maybe, again, Karl-Anthony Towns joins the party. Who knows? Maybe even the T-Wolves would have been, a top 5 team in the Western Conference right now. But I think just in general, it really is crazy just in how impactful LeBron's decision has been to the NBA in the past decade. Because we talk about, trades happening. This might have never happened. This team might have never even sniffed a playoff spot if LeBron ever decided to just stay in Miami. If LeBron's decided to stay in Miami, the Eastern Conference would just be a wasteland, absolute wasteland. Players just packing all their bags, making their way to South Beach. But the Western Conference would be a fighting zone for all the All-Stars that wanted to, go away from that. So that's the only thing I really think.
That was good. I mean, it's a plan. Like I said, playing a game of what if. But around the horn to finish off this segment, yes, I give them 1 championship if they would have stayed together. Janka, how many championships do you give them?
1.
And Brandon, how many championships do you give them if they would have stayed together?
Honestly, maximum 2, but I would probably say 1 as well.
Perfect. All right. Moving on, we're going into soccer. All right. Inter Miami CF, Philadelphia Union. Look, the Philadelphia Union are a great squad. They're the reigning, defending Eastern Conference champions. They put up 4 goals in their first week of this season, looking back to normal, picking up the pace where they left off last season. But they lose this match 2-0 to Miami on the road. And Jim Curtin, the head coach of Philadelphia Union, praised Miami. I think I have to give praise to the Miami players because of this result. They came out of the game. Their plan was to not let Philadelphia get comfortable. From the minute the game started, it was press, high energy. And they didn't let Philadelphia breathe. And that's what you have to do with a team like that. Because I guarantee you, and this is a say like Brandon, guaranteed, if Philadelphia would have gotten comfortable into that match, they would have made Miami pay. With the likes of Julian Carranza, who he did have some chances.
A lot of chances.
He did have some chances, but you know what? For me, another man of the match performance from Drake Callender. I agree with Janka. He makes some questionable decisions with the ball.
Bro.
But he makes up for them, and he has saved Miami in the first 2 weeks because Philadelphia definitely could have been on the scoreboard if it wasn't for Drake Callender. I think in the second half, Philly did amp up the pressure a little bit, but they just really couldn't do anything on the final third of the field. They couldn't get anything through Miami's defense on the final third of the field. And then just the 2 goals. Like, Andre Blake is one hell of a keeper for the Philadelphia Union, one of the best in Major League Soccer. But those 2 goals that Miami scored, you can't do nothing about them. I mean, Coco Jean with that first goal, which Pizarro will set him up, like, that's going into the bottom left corner. Can't do anything about that. Then you got Robert Taylor, comes in as a sub off of injury with a volley, controls it with its chest, and then with the volley, that's definitely going to be goal of the week, in my opinion. Listen, there's nothing you can do for that as a keeper. It was just 2 nice, solid shots. And they go along with the New England Revolution, which, by the way, they're not the top. Miami is not the top of the East. Last check is the New England Revolution, who are also perfect. There's 4 teams that are perfect in the MLS right now. It is New England Revolution, Inter Miami, the Seattle Sounders, who look like they're back to their Seattle Sounders selves, and the expansion team, St. Louis City, who has been playing well the first 2 weeks. They're perfect as of right now. But all I can say is solid performance from Miami. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is week 2. I don't expect Philadelphia to falter down. I think that they will still be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll still be difficult because they were good last year. But everyone came back and they retooled and added pieces to it. They're even better this year and more talented. So I think as the season progresses, I think Philadelphia is going to hit their stride and still be the team to beat in the East. Again, good solid win, but it's only been 2 weeks of the season. Let's not get carried away.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I was there when they couldn't even get a win at home until like later parts of the season. I'm going to get myself carried away a little bit. Callender is the best goaltender in the MLS today. That's a guarantee. That's a fact. Callender, incredible game through the past 2 matches, has been phenomenal this season. Inter Miami, Phil Neville, the reason why Phil Neville, and I think probably the first time he's done it as Inter Miami manager, he's the coach for the MLS team match day for this week, for week 2. Him, Pizarro, who got his first ever assist of the season in the game against Philadelphia. Pizarro's a part of it, and as well, of course, as Mota. I mean, this team for Inter Miami, as I mentioned before in the last podcast, they're more aggressive. They've just been looking phenomenal out there against the reigning Eastern Conference champions of the MLS in the Philadelphia Union. They just look to control everything. Now, again, this is a team that first 2 games, but I'm going to go way ahead of myself right now and say that this Miami team definitely looks like a different breed. They got different guys on there. This is a team without Higuain, and who knows exactly if it's a cultural change without him, and who knows exactly if the lineups and the different pieces now, there's not a lot of egos on this team. I think an egoless team in Miami for Inter, something's cooking in Fort Lauderdale, and I really do like it. I really do like it.
I definitely, before Jonka goes, I definitely will say that this is probably their best start to a season throughout their 4 years now. I will say that. Jonka, floor is yours.
I was hyped about the game from last week's podcast. I was hyped. Coming into this one, I told Daniel, I was like, "Hey, I know you got Philadelphia, but they look pretty good." I was telling you, Inter Miami looked pretty good the first week. I was like, "Hey, you don't know, bro. You don't know." And we're at home, so we got the crowd again with us. They go out, they play exceptionally well. The goalie played well. Now, I'm gonna say it again. He had some decisions that he almost flopped on him, which could have cost us again a goal or a couple. But he made the crazy saves. I don't know how long that's gonna hold him. He needs to fix that decision making because He had some bad kicks, some bad passes, some really terrible dribbling. When one of the Union players tried to catch him off guard, he nearly gave the ball up, but he made a crazy save. If he can fix that, then we actually got a really good chance about winning more games than we did last year. Now, Pizarro, he needs to fix something because his dribbling yesterday, or my bad, Saturday, was atrocious. The guy didn't know what he was doing. He would go in. He would try to split between two guards, like if he was some kind of Derrick Rose in his prime. I don't know, bro. Like, buddy, you ain't Messi, you ain't Ronaldo, you ain't anybody. Stop trying to split two defenders in front of you and try to do something like Rabona. He's trying to be too fancy, bro. Just play the game. Pass the ball around. You give everybody a chance to play with the ball. It gets everybody comfortable. Just because, and besides that goal, that first goal that Inter Miami got, it was because Bisado tried to go inside to the box. He lost the possession, and luckily his teammate was right there, and boom, he goes and hits it in. That's the only reason that they had a chance for that one. It's because of Carlos' arrogance.
Yeah, but I mean, again, as I mentioned before, who knows? His team might be egoless now without Higuain and other pieces that were on this roster last season. But Pizarro himself, I just like the fact that he does push this ball down, and that really does push the envelope as well for Inter Miami whenever they're on the pitch against whoever that may be. But Jonka, of course, he made a lot of great points. I mean, definitely he does need to touch up on some things. Calendar, as I mentioned before, phenomenal 2 first matches to start off the season.
Great saves.
But there are situations where, again, I mean, just one mishap, and that can cause you a goal and possibly the match itself. So Inter Miami, I honestly do love the fact what I'm seeing from this team. Second game of the year, I'm still ahead of myself. I think the East run through Inter right now. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good right now about the Herons.
But what I will say though, this coming weekend is against New York at Yankee Stadium. I think that's going to be a good test for us because it's away. I want to see how we play at a different stadium away from
I agree with that.
all this Miami fandom, right? We have over here. If they can play that hard of a defense and score how they've been scoring lately in these first 2 games, then somebody's gonna have to give us our credit and maybe put some like microscopes on us because we could be seeing a good team like build up right now this season. I'm telling you right now. If I gotta see how we play. I might just legit buy Apple TV just to see Inter Miami play.
I mean, honestly, it might be, again, I'm really against the whole Apple TV stuff. I might even buy Apple TV, to be honest with you, because this is technically the Higuain revenge game right now. So this will definitely be, it'll definitely be on my TV somewhere.
Really quickly, last segment, we're just going to go around the horn really quickly to end the show tonight. But what is the greatest unforgettable sports moment that you have ever experienced in your lifetime?
The greatest? I got multiple, bro.
For me, I'll go ahead. For me, as a huge Real Madrid fan, they had this thing called La Décima, which was the 10th. It was a crazy obsession of finally winning the 10th Champions League title. They had the last one they had won was, I believe, was like 2001 or 2002. And they did it in 2014 in dramatic fashion with a Sergio Ramos header in the last minute of the game to tie it, to send it to extra time. And I was going absolutely insane. And Real Madrid ends up taking it in extra time to win their 10th Champions League title. For me, that was my craziest moment in sports history so far in my lifetime.
What I would say for mine, and it's really weird because, I mean, for me, for people that do know me, I used to work at Hard Rock Stadium during the Dolphin games, the Hurricane games. The craziest thing I would probably have to say is definitely being on the day of the Miami Miracle when that happened with Ryan Tannehill against the Patriots. That had to be the craziest thing. And the thing that was weird about it, though, because again, like I'm working, and actually I ended up leaving around like halfway through the third because I wanted, again, it was a long day. I was there since like 7 in the morning. But I remember that day because there was a situation where it was like Bill Belichick had some sort of family member that had ticket issues, and I had to deal with that. Talking to a bunch of New England Patriots fans who have, really great class sometimes, especially in Miami weather. And then just the back and forth of the game. And I remember it was just going down, looking at the field away from the little area that they have for the ticket office when you're about to clock out, and just seeing the little peak of the field. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure Miami will probably fall out in the last 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So I'd go to my car and see my dad there, and Miami has this last shot. And I can only imagine, what the stadium is like, but I'm there with my dad. And I'm like, what is Tannehill doing? The Stills. No, the Parker, I think it was. The Parker, the Stills, lateral to Drake. Drake goes off. Gronk didn't have the angle. Iron Eagle with the call. Me and my dad are just like jumping up and down nonstop. I couldn't believe it. The biggest thing I couldn't believe, though, is the fact that I wasn't at the stadium during that time. It was the craziest moment, the craziest thing I've ever seen. Crazier than like a Damian Lillard buzzer beater 3, like crazier than that. So definitely the craziest moment I probably have, and definitely the most unforgettable moment I'll ever have.
Jonka?
Man, it's
off with a good one.
It's tough for me because it's like because I could say the Patriots coming back from 28-3 against Atlanta, and it was just ridiculous how they came back. I could say the Hurricanes when they played Notre Dame, and I was at the stadium front row, and they obliterated the Irish there. It was just it was absolutely nuts, sold out crowd. Oh my god! But I think it could also even be this past World Cup final with Messi and with Messi and France. That was the crazy thing too. But I think it would just. I think this. I'm gonna say right now. This event. This happened out of nowhere. I was just chilling on my couch. My dad was sleeping. My stepmom was sleeping. My brother was sleeping. Everybody was sleeping. I was there in the couch watching football play Duke. And then
I know what you're about to say.
And then I'm just like, bro, man, another effing week that we lose again, bro. And now we have to settle for this dumbass lateral shit that's probably not gonna happen, bro. And there goes, they hand it off. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's see how long this lasts. And then I'm just like, okay, bro, back and forth. The guy nearly hits the floor, and I'm like, oh, okay, no whistle. And then I'm like, they toss it back, and then like, bro, is this really gonna happen? In my head, I'm like, is this really gonna happen? I can't have to stay quiet because everybody's sleeping. And then like they pass it. Oh, 1 blocker, 2 blockers, and he goes and he runs it all the way. And this is after they fire Al Golden, which is priceless. And they finally go out to win the game against Duke. And I was just going crazy. I stood up running around my house like I was like a dog on crack. I don't know.
That's a good analogy, man. But not even that, because when you said that, so you were front row for that Notre Dame Hurricane game?
Yeah, I was front row.
I can't imagine.
Braxton Berrios, Lee Rozier running it in, the interception, everything.
Man, no, that's unforgettable though. I mean, if it's possible, I just want to add on one more thing, because I think it's, especially now than ever, more relatable. This past college football season, I watched all the games here in Gainesville for the Florida Gators. Anthony Richardson, I think the entire season has been probably the most shocking, unforgettable, memorial season I've ever seen. And honestly, if I can be on the record saying this, probably the best football player I've ever seen touch a field on the college level, in my opinion, for me being alive as long as I've been. And there's been a lot of talk about him in the combine. Obviously, the combine, people say it's just for show. People say it's just because, they want to get statistics and stats and hand sizes, all that. I mean, besides the fact that Richardson's a freak athlete, there's things you just can't teach that he has.
Yeah.
And I think one of the moments, if I would just pin it out throughout the entire season, I had my friend Ricardo, that ended up coming down from Miami, making the trip to go to week 1 against Utah when the Gators played against number 7 in the nation, Utah Utes. The 2-point conversion where Anthony Richardson fakes a pass midair, 360s, and then finds an open guy in the end zone. Stuff like that you can't teach. And again, kind of just adding on for the Miami Miracle stuff, but definitely AR himself, Anthony Richardson, probably the most remarkable, shocking thing I've ever seen in sports, at least of late. Would I put over the Miami Miracle? Probably not, but definitely Anthony Richardson throughout last season.
Yeah, I don't know if you see it. Jeez.
It's a little, yeah. Yeah, it's the front row seats.
Yeah, that was my seat for the game. And then the interception, I forgot from who it was.
Trajan Bandy
just came right towards us, like right towards the front of our seats. And he jumped over the seats, and it was crazy.
Oh, my gosh. Man, you had to get that on video, man.
I know, man. Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah,
bro, it was a pick six. You can't picture a pick six.
All right, guys.
You look it up on YouTube. You probably see a big guy with a white shirt and a sombrero. That's me.
I'm honestly look at the highlights right now. I'm gonna double check right now. I got to. I gotta put it as a screensaver.
Well, that's gonna do it for us tonight. This was a great episode. We had lots of talk. I mean, we could have kept on going. We had lots to talk about. This was a great. Make sure next week, episode 85. You don't want to miss it. Isaac is returning. He will be back with us. It's going to be great. We're going to have lots to talk about. Thank you guys once again for tuning in every Monday, tuning into our social media and just giving us support. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you guys next week for a brand new episode.